Brian Volk Weis, welcome back to Word Balloon. As always, man, great to see you. Thank you for coming back.
Very honored to be back. I don't take that for granted, so thank you.
Well, I don't take your love for Trek for granted either, man. I know we've been talking off the air for so long, and now we've got the center seat, this amazing Star Trek documentary that starts with Lucille Ball greenlighting the series. And the great thing is there have been 4 episodes as of this recording that have aired on History Channel. And I know they're pushing people to either get the streaming History Vault that they're offering. But I also know my cable company, Comcast, because I've got History, I had access to at least the next 5 episodes as I saw it. So I'm caught up at least with what History has posted so far. Well done, man. It's fantastic.
You're very kind, man. Thank you for saying that.
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, like, are you going to go all the way? Does the series go all the way to New Trek?
No, it'll probably end after the JJ movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that an editorial choice, or is that?
I feel like our style works best with a little bit of time having gone by. So there'll be an episode about the Next Generation movies. There'll be an episode about the JJ movies. And then maybe the 60th anniversary will cover the new shows.
Okay, understood.
Maybe.
Well, I'm glad you decided to do this with the 55th anniversary in mind, because the people that are still around, they're not getting any younger, obviously. And thankfully, this is the disconnect sometimes when people of a newer generation go back and look at something. They may not have all the details, and you've really gone out and gotten people that were there from day one, and also some great archival stuff of people that have passed, like DC Fontana, for example, Nimoy, for example.
That's not archival. That's a really interesting thing. I'm not proud of it, but I take responsibility for it. We produced a 50th anniversary Star Trek show for History 5 years ago. And those interviews with Nimoy and DC Fontana, those are interviews we did for that show that we own. So we were able to use them, footage that had never been seen before from those interviews.
That's great, man. And again, the deep dive that you're able to take on all these chapters, most of them are an hour long. I noticed that you had one about actors in Trek, and that was 90 minutes without commercials, or about an hour and 25 minutes or so. And the great thing is, again, going back to the beginning, you're talking to production people that were involved. And what I love in particular in the second episode, lots of love for the animated series, the original animated series. And hey, man, I am so with you on how great that show was. And I got to see Lou Scheimer at Comic-Con before he passed away. Wow. And he talked about it. And he was like, as you people say as well in the documentary, as far as everyone concerned that was actually working on the show, they were making the 4th season of Star Trek.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no denying that.
Yeah, no, it was great footage, man. And also, you know, you're covering ground that you yourself did in your History Channel documentary a few years ago, and other people have done as well. I really like when we get into Next Generation, you cover some of the same territory as that Shatner documentary, Chaos on the Bridge, but you do it from a different point of view. And in particular, Diana Mulder, some very interesting comments, and sometimes when what they don't say might speak volumes higher than any actual on the record dissatisfaction. Dr. Pulaski, for maybe newbies that don't remember, and also of course classic Trek. I mean, you know, she was was it Amanda Jones? I can't remember what
I don't know the character name for the original series,
but yeah, she was with.
Yes, she was in it.
Yeah, and of course the other episode where the 3 aliens inhabit Kirk and
Correct.
Spock and the other crew member that Mulder plays. So yeah, she was already a classic Trek person, and then, you know, came in that unforgiving kind of role, replacing Gates McFadden, who I want to talk about being the narrator for your show. But yeah, man, that was a really interesting moment. Was that you asking the questions, Brian?
I did probably about 70% of the interviews for this one, which that's depending on the series. There's series I've done less, there's series I've done more. But yeah, about 70%. But no, it's funny when we made a list of all the people we wanted to interview, and then I just kind of in my own mind ranked them in order of least likely to say yes to most likely to say yes. I think Deanna Mulder was either the least likely or the second to most least likely to say yes. So when she agreed to it, I mean, we were just blown away, and we're so happy.
Yeah, man. Again, some of these people, they're getting up there in years, and God, also, we're all heartbroken at what Nichelle Nichols' current state is. So thank God you got a nice, really clear-headed conversation with her.
And I'll be honest with you, I've never said this before, but she was already showing some pretty distinct signs when we did that interview, and it was 5 years ago. So we actually, like, we can't even use, I would say, 40% of that footage because it's quite sad.
Understood. I guess obviously the show speaks for itself for maybe people who said no.
Yes, but the nuance is, why did they say no? So there was a fair amount of people that said yes, but then due to COVID and shooting schedules, we didn't get them. And then there were some people from the beginning who said no, and we left them alone.
Understood. As we've discussed in previous conversations, you've told me, like for your show, A Toy Story Near You, where you basically sent out cameras and microphones and everything they need to kind of do it themselves as far as their video footage, send it to you, and then in post you could put everything together. Was any of that happening for these interviews?
Absolutely. I mean, we had developed a lot of technology for movies that made us for COVID. We created these kits. I think we have 9 of them. Wow. And each kit has 2 cameras, 2 sound recording machines, 2 lights, and 3 hard drives, and some other shit. Sure. And we FedEx those to people. Through Zoom, everything's color coded. Through Zoom, we teach them how to build it. And then we light it. We tell them, like, oh, da-da-da-da. And then they shoot the interview. And we did, honestly, man, about 80% of movies that made us was done that way. And I would say 20% of Center Seat was done that way. Wow.
That's amazing. Absolutely. Let's talk about Gates McFadden. That's your narrator, which I think is a great choice, and she's killing it.
I agree. I'm very biased, but I agree.
Were there other thoughts of other narrators before deciding on Gates?
Yes and no. Yes. As a director, my least favorite thing that I have to do for my job, and I would honestly say probably the only thing I have to do in my job that I don't like, is pick the narrator. So I just kept procrastinating, and I just kept not making a decision. Then I got an email from my head of production saying, we're out of time. We're going to go over budget if you don't make a decision before Monday. I even thought about doing it myself, but it's so hard and time consuming, and I don't have the talent or the time to do it. So it suddenly dawned on me, we were already working with Gates. We do her podcast, and she was an executive producer on the show from day one. So I just called her up and I'm like, Gates, what do you think? You want to do the VO, And she was like, yes, I do. Call my agent. So I called her agent. We got a deal done, and she did the VO. And again, I'm very biased, but I really think she knocked it out of the park.
I agree with you. And I didn't realize you were producing her podcast, which is another great Trek podcast that I can definitely point people at. Also, you got Mark Altman on there, Inglorious Trexperts, and I know you've been on the show on their Ready Room or whatever they
Few
call.
times. Few
Yeah,
times.
absolutely, dude.
I did
Yeah.
the episode review,
Yes,
and I did the regular show.
there you go,
So
man.
I messed up on the episode review. I didn't understand. Mark told me everything, but I wasn't listening carefully. So I chose a two-parter, and I watched the two-parter before the podcast, not knowing we would be watching it during the podcast. So,
but
yeah, so I'm doing another one like that for the 7th rule of acquisition in January. And I'm definitely going to pick a one episode, and I will not watch it before beforehand.
Oh, okay, because they kind of want fresh perspective, I guess, as you're watching it.
Well, they want fresh, but also I don't have a lot of time. So for me to watch 4 hours when I could have gotten away with 1 hour,
Sure,
that would have been ideal.
I understand, but honestly, I loved your chain of command commentary, and you're right, man. I mean, it's so funny. There's another good Star Trek podcast out there that makes the argument for Captain Jellicoe and his all military attitude, and it's like he really is the hero of that show.
Absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it. Not the nicest guy, I agree. But yeah, if you need a captain to stop a war, if you need a captain to rescue another captain, yeah, he's the fucking guy.
Absolutely. Let's get back to the documentary. Again,
Yes.
A lot of love for the animated series, which is great. 3rd episode, and I'm so glad because I want as much Star Trek Phase 2 information as I can get. The aborted 70s attempt at Paramount to create a 4th network. I mean, this is before Fox even was doing a 4th network. I remember reading all that stuff when it was hitting the major newspapers that this was underway. And as a hardcore Trek fan, even in the 70s, I'm like, yes, please. It ended up becoming the motion picture, a lot of what they did. But man, it's so great to see. And not only Zahn back in the 70s, but you talking to the actor today.
Yeah.
And again, I'm glad he's around to tell the stories of him almost being the Vulcan on this TV series.
If you're not aware of this, you're going to love this. We do an after show podcast for Center Seat, and episode 3 is all with Zahn.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I'm going to definitely listen to that. That's great to hear. And also, I'm sure I said it in the introduction, but I'll remind people again that Center Seat is on History Channel. As of this recording, they've done 4 episodes. And as I said earlier, there's another 5 episodes that you can access on History's channel, at least through my cable system. I'm assuming DirecTV might work that way as well. But also, they are also pointing you to the History Vault, their new streaming service, to get the other episodes. And, they got a lot of other great documentaries and great original programming you can watch as well. But these, it's really been a great ride. And what's the title again for the Center? Is it Center Seat After Show? Your podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Absolutely, man. Is it video and audio or just audio?
Just audio.
That's cool. That's all right, man. I'm flirting with video in my own little way. We're both blurred out as far as when we're talking. We don't want to show the mess that's behind. At least I don't want to show the mess behind me.
I'm in a room, literally all the walls are covered with my kids' artwork.
Oh, nice.
And people are like, when they hear about it, they're like, oh, that's cute. When they see it, they're like, that's fucking crazy. So I'm giving a little blurring.
It's all good, man. Don't sweat it. No, that's fantastic. Let's see. The other things I wanted to talk about as far as specific episodes, the Next Generation episode I thought was really interesting. And again, you get into kind of the switch around with Gates and Diana Mulder, but just again, some just great information. What surprises happened during the production that in terms of information you got that you didn't know?
The biggest surprise easily, second place is 1,000 miles away, was the interview with Kirstie Alley. Star Trek 2 is like, it's the closest thing I have to like a Bible. It's the closest thing I have to like a code of conduct in my personal life.
Wow.
I'll never look at the movie the same way after that interview. I mean, it was, it I mean, it was just nuts. All this stuff she told me that I had never noticed before. And then I watched the movie that night after the interview, and I was like, oh my God, how did I never notice any of this before?
Where are you on 3, Search
I
for
love
Spock?
three.
You
I
see, I
love
do
it.
too. And it's
I
so
love it.
funny talking to Altman and talking to Rob Burnett, guys that I've gotten to know that, certainly have their clear opinions of Star Trek, that they're like, sound stages, and it really looks like they're on sets. And I'm like, great story. I don't care. I don't care.
By the way, I don't care either, but it doesn't look like they're on sets. Like maybe a couple of the shots with the snow, maybe I'll give them that, but it looks fine. I mean, it looks absolutely fine. And by the way, there's stuff that was done on sets 5 years ago that looks worse. Like it looks absolutely fine. It's the perfect movie. It turns a tragedy into a happy ending. There's 2 tragedies: the loss of the Enterprise, the loss of David. Like there's humor. Christopher Lloyd is fantastic.
I agree.
Shatner is on his A game.
Yep.
I mean, everything about it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
I'm with you, man. No, absolutely. Do you cover?
Sorry, I gotta say, stealing the Enterprise.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's a great scene. It looks fantastic. Like the casting was great. Yeah, I could defend that. That's an easy movie to defend.
I hear you. What about 5 and 6? Are they part of the documentary or no?
Yes.
Okay.
5 is a catastrophic mess of a movie, and we explain why. And Star Trek 6, I believe, is a fantastic film, and we explain why.
Were you able to talk to Christopher Plummer?
No, he had died.
Sure.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if we would have gotten him anyway, but he had just died.
Wow.
Like right around when the show was greenlit.
Understood. Yeah. Yeesh. I'm glad History Channel greenlit it. Were you going to work directly with them, or were you talking to other possible platforms?
We greenlit it before we had a partner, and we took it out, and they were the people that made the best, most logical offer.
Okay, that's cool. Again, I can't recommend it enough as a hardcore Trek fan, knowing you're a hardcore Trek fan. I mean, as people might know, Nacelle Company might tell people how much you care about Star Trek and everything. With the
one of my sorry to interrupt, but one of my
please.
favorite things that happened while making the show was I was actually there for a couple people when they put 2 and 2 together. Walter Koenig was one. What's his name? I'm having a brain fart. The showrunner of Deep Space Nine.
Oh, Ira Burr.
Not Ira, the other guy.
Oh, shit. Was it Berman? Was it Rick Berman or no?
No, not Berman.
Who's the other showrunner?
It's
Ron Moore.
Ron Moore. The one name you haven't said.
Brandon Braga.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Brandon Braga was literally walking out. I was walking about. He was like, "Yeah, what's the name of the company again?" I go, "Nacelle Company." He's like, "That's not a coincidence, is it?" Go, no, it's not. And then Walter Koenig's version of that was, why are you making such a deep dive into Star Trek? Like 16 episodes, what? And he was like, oh, but it is the Nacelle Company. So it was just great to actually be there when the light bulb went off.
That's fantastic. Wow, 16 episodes. Holy shit. That's fantastic, man. Because again, we've got 4 right now running on History Channel. I know on Friday they're running more on Black Friday, I believe, or at least they're rerunning what they've run so far. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what else they air. And again, the back, the back 5, at least of what I've been able to see, currently available on History Channel and everything. So it's great to hear that there's 16. I wanted to ask with some of the minutes we have left. I know too you've been working. You told me off the air last time we talked that you were in the midst of working with The Rock on a great show that you've got on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's called Behind the Attraction. That came out about a month ago, did very, very, very well. And we are waiting to see what comes next. Disney is supposed to tell us next month.
That's great. How was it working with The Rock?
The best.
Excellent.
He's the best. He is exactly what you think he is. He is funny. He is professional. He showed up on time. We worked longer than he needed to. He is, and you also know how somebody like that is, because I don't talk to him every day, to put it mildly. But you also know how somebody like that is based on interacting with his employees.
Wow.
And A, they all love him. B, they're all very protective of him. And C, they're all cool people. There's not a single person I work there who's not down to earth and cool.
That's great to hear, man. That's fantastic. As we're crawling out of COVID, another interesting wrinkle. Again, I want people to go back and watch some of our other previous conversations or listen to them. Comedy Dynamics, still your stand-up company, correct?
Sure.
And what's been going on as we're crawling out? I know that you've had good outdoor shows so people could do stand-up and stuff. But yeah, anything you want to announce that might be in the works as far as new stand-up specials?
We're starting to walk and not just crawl. We shot 4 new specials in October, 2 specials this month. So before COVID, we shot 20 to 30 specials a year. Last year, we shot 5, one of which was before COVID. We shot it in January. So we only shot 4 during COVID, but all of 2020, we only shot 5, which is the lowest amount we've shot since I think 2006.
Wow.
This year, we have shot 16.
That's great.
So we already have specials booked for January, February, March, and April.
Wonderful.
So I think next year we'll be back over 20.
That's awesome. Can you say who you've got in the box, or is it not ready yet to announce?
I can only say who's been publicly revealed, and that's Jim Gaffigan, Andrew Scholes, Gary Owen, and I think those are the only ones that are public.
Okay. Did you ever work with, and forgive me for asking if you haven't, Al Madrigal?
I have not worked with him, no.
Okay. Well, that's a hint of an upcoming word balloon that I've got in the works. So
he has his own company.
Okay.
So it wouldn't make sense for him to hire us because he can do it himself.
I'll remind people of the excellent work you did on the surviving pieces of audio and video with the great Bill Hicks, and the great the amazing documentary you made. Actually, you made 2 documentaries, right, about Bill?
You're absolutely right.
That's awesome.
And I can't say what it is, but we got something cool coming with him out next year.
Excellent. That's good to hear. And that was going to be my next question. So that's wonderful to hear. No, very important voice. It's funny, losing Mort Saul this year reminded me of the very exclusive club that I would absolutely put Bill Hicks, 30 years later in, along with Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce and people like, and Carlin, people like that. So
Agreed.
Definitely.
Absolutely agreed.
Yeah, man. What else? What else? I mean, are there new seasons coming for Toy Store Near You, or Movies That Made Us, Toys That Made Us?
Yeah, Toy Store Near You, we just announced yesterday, season 4 comes out Christmas Day. And I'm not sure if this is public or not, but fuck it. We're doing at least 2 more seasons. So season 5 should come out in June. Season 6 should come out December of 2022. And we're in post on Down to Earth with Zac Efron season 2. And we got a bunch of other crap going on I can't talk about just yet.
No problem. Tell me about the Down to Earth show with Zach. I don't know. I haven't seen that one yet.
Season 1 came out this year. It was nominated for 2 Emmys. We won 1. We shot season 2 and we're in post right now. And hopefully by Q2, season 2 should come out.
Is it a straight up comedy? Is it a reality
No, it's
show?
not a comedy at all. It's
What is
an
it?
environmental travel show.
I see. Okay. Wow. Cool. And what platform is that running on?
Netflix.
Excellent, man. That's huge. That's wonderful. Great to hear. Also, people can find on Amazon. It was originally on Spectrum, but you did the reboot Mad About You season.
That's correct. Yeah.
And well done. I thought that was great, and it was great to see everybody. I waited until it was on Amazon. I didn't have Spectrum, so you can't have every streamer, but it is.
Try.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm glad it found a home after, and I don't even know if Spectrum is still trying to make shows or not, right now. Well, isn't it amazing as we wrap up in terms of, I'm surprised at how many of the streaming platforms are still in the game, given the amount that are out there. Holy shit,
It's the garden era of streaming and AVOD and everything. I mean, I got a pile here of all the deals I'm negotiating. I mean, it's probably about 8 or 9 contracts I'm looking at.
Okay.
4 of them are with companies I've never done a deal with before.
Hey, that's awesome. Fantastic, man.
And didn't exist in their current form that I'm working with 2 years ago.
I understand, and that's amazing, and I'm glad that you're that people are willing to work with you, man. And again, I think the proof is in these programs. Truly, whether it's the stand-up specials or what you're doing with The Rock, I will look at Down to Earth with Zach. That's great, but certainly the center seat is outstanding, and it's amazing to hear that you got 16 episodes. That's wonderful, man. I figured it would be standard 10 or whatever. Shouldn't surprise me though. And again, outstanding deep dives that I'm really enjoying. All right, a couple quick things before we wrap up. Favorite captain?
Captain Kirk.
Okay, I respect. Of course, it's like me with Sean Connery and James Bond. You always got to go with the original. I'm with you, man. I got to say, I'm an Avery Brooks fan. I really love Captain Sisko.
He's fantastic.
Loved how you really focused on in the Pale Moonlight. The really
My favorite episode.
Yeah, well, and I would agree. I would definitely agree for Deep Space Nine. That's probably my favorite Deep Space Nine. Absolutely.
No, I take my favorite is What We Left Behind.
Oh, that's cool.
One of my favorite moments in all of Star Trek is when Gul Dukat is holding the baseball and Wei-Lu, whatever his name is, Wei-Un goes, "What's that?" He's like, "It's a message." What's the message? He'll be back.
Yep. No, that's it. Yeah, you're right about that. That's awesome. I loved in the last episode how they reconstructed the second original series pilot where No Man Has Gone Before. And I never hear anybody talk about that Dukat with those devil powers is forcing Sisko on his knees and forcing him to pray, just like Gary did to Kirk and everything. Gary Mitchell. Right. Yeah, I love, you see, and I will bore you very quickly with where I thought they fucked up with Voyager was they should have got to Earth in mid-season, and what they could have done with the back 10 and still tell the same stories, but then all right, welcome back to Earth. Okay, Maquis, you're under arrest, you're under arrest, you're under arrest. Let's take the Borg and dissect her. And Captain Janeway, we're going to have a kind of Kane Mutiny hearing. Let's talk about all the ways that you've screwed with the Prime Directive or whatever, given what we learned about while you've been in the Delta Quadrant. And I thought that would have set up the back half of the season and also given everybody, all the characters, a chance to reconnect with Earth people, find out what happened to Harry Kim with his girlfriend, Janeway with her former fiance or boyfriend, Mark, all that backstory. I don't know where you were on Voyager, if you enjoyed it or not.
I respect it. I would not say I enjoyed it. I enjoy what Voyager should have been, which was made 5 years later, known as Battlestar Galactica.
100%. Yeah.
And as I'm sure you know, Ron Moore says it himself. Everything he was not allowed to do in Voyager, he did for Battlestar.
Yep.
And you can see the penalty that Voyager took by not having Ron Moore there.
Agreed. I've talked to Straczynski, J. Michael Straczynski, about Babylon 5 and the similarities to Deep Space Nine. I kind of lean on his side. I got to be honest, because the people even on the documentary in Center Seat are like, I really think it's a coincidence. I'm like, that's a lot of coincidence. I don't know, man. What do you think?
I mean, it's on the one hand, I agree. It's one hell of a coincidence, and how is that possible? But on the other hand, when I was in the 8th grade or maybe even the 6th grade on a Commodore 64 with no internet, I wrote a book. If I showed you that book right now, and I still have it, you would read it and you would say, Brian obviously stole it from Demolition Man. I hadn't seen Demolition Man hadn't even been made. It just happened. So
Okay.
it does happen. It really does.
I hear you, man. And Alan Moore said it about the creation of the steam engine, and that while Robert Fulton was dealing with it here in America, there was an Italian inventor that was doing the same thing. So yeah, maybe it's just in the zeitgeist, and it does happen. So I hear what you're saying. Well, I will host a Romulan ale to you, and tell you how much absolutely, man. How much, as always, I really enjoyed Center Seat. I can't recommend it enough to the people who love Star Trek, and for people who really want a great primer, get into Star Trek. This is the way to do it. So once again, on the History Channel, the Center Seat, and I'll tell more in the wrap up. But Brian Volk Weis, as always, really appreciate your time, man. Happy Thanksgiving. It was great to see you.
Thank you, John. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe.